How the Okanogans became red. Okanagan. Long, long ago, when the sun was young and no bigger than a star, there was an island far out at sea called Sami Tumi Wula, or White Man's Island. Now giants lived there. The giants were white, and their leader was a tall white woman called Shkomalt. At first there was peace, but at last war came, and the white giants fought with each other. This made Shkomalt angry. Shkomalt had a strong heart. She drove the unruly ones together to the farthest end of the island. Then she broke off this piece of land, and with her foot pushed it out to sea. Many days drifted the floating island. Storms swept over them, and the sun beat down upon them. At last all died except one man and one woman. Then the man caught a whale, and they saved their lives by eating the blubber. Then their islands began to sink, so they made a canoe. Then they put the blubber into the canoe and then paddled away. After paddling for many suns, they came to some islands, and at last to the mainland. Here they landed, but the mainland was not so large as it is now because it had not grown. But all their whiteness was gone. The sun had burned them until they were red. All the Okanogans are descended from this man and woman, and therefore they are red. In time to come, the lakes will melt the foundations of the world, and the rivers cut it loose. Then the whole world will float as the island did. This is the end of the world, the Itsowele. The Copper Canoe, Nootka. Long ago, from the waters of Volga, a man came to the Nootkas. He came in a copper canoe, which shone bright as the sun. His paddles were also copper. Men said he came from the sky. He came to teach them they should not fight. At first the Nootkas listened. Then they became angry. They killed the canoe man. Indians were sorry after they killed the canoe man. Therefore they carve images of him for their houses, even to this day. Origin of mineral springs. Long, long ago, in the days of the first grandfather, all men were at peace. The earth was so new that tall firs of the mountain were no larger than arrows. Many fish swam in beautiful waters and in great river. Many deer were on the mountains, many ipo and camas roots in the valley. All Indians were happy. Then the first twins were born. One became famous for the deer he shot and the fish he speared. The other was always hungry. One day the brothers were hunting together. One leaned over the spring to drink. His brother struck him on the head with his stone tomahawk and pushed him into the spring. At once the water bubbled and boiled. From a cloud of vapor arose an old Indian. He was the first of all Indians. He said, "You have sharpened the tomahawk against your brother. Go, wander. Wherever you drink, the waters shall be bitter." The brother wandered over the mountains and plains. Wherever he drank, the waters became bitter. For that reason, Indians did not allow twins to live. One is always unlucky and the other happy. How the ermine got its necklace. Athabascan. In the valley between Koyukuk and Yukon lived an old man, his wife, and 2 sons. The old man was too feeble to go out alone any longer, so he told the boys they must travel alone. Therefore they decided to go alone. In the morning they found a porcupine trail. Following this downstream, they came to a large river running full of ice. At the edge of the water, the track disappeared. The brothers leaped on a cake of ice and floated downstream. Again they landed and looked for food, when they found a fish had been left on the ice and saw many sled tracks. They followed these. They then heard a faint crying. Going on cautiously, they saw a porcupine carrying a load. They asked it why it cried. When it did not answer, they clubbed it dead, cooked it, and ate it. Going on, they saw a village. An old woman came out, saw them, and called to the people of the village to prepare food for them. The brothers entered a large house where an old man was seated on a caribou skin. They sat down on either side of him on caribou skins and began to eat. Seeing only young women, besides the old man and woman, the brothers asked where the young men were. The young women said there were none, but that they could do many difficult things which even men could hardly do. The elder brother boasted that he could do more than they, but the young women laughed. They said they were simply answering his question. In the morning the young women went hunting. The brothers went with them. Then the women outran the elder brother and teased him. He became angry and said, "You cannot do one thing. Stand at a distance and shoot at me. If I am not hit, I will shoot at you." The younger man warned his brother, but the elder one was still angry and insisted. Finally, the women consented to shoot at him. As they shot, he leaped, but 4 arrows struck him together, and he fell dead. The younger brother mourned for him. When he wished to return and asked the way, he was told it was dangerous, and they described to him the monsters he would meet. Nevertheless, he started. After traveling for some time, he saw a cliff with a nest of enormous birds. The old ones were away, but he found a young eaglet. "What do your parents do when they come?" he asked. "When they come," the eaglet answered, "it becomes dark, it blows, and there is thunder. When it is my mother coming, it rains. When it is my father who comes, it hails." The young man killed the bird. Then he waited. Soon it became dark, and thundered and rained, while the air was blown against him by the beating of the wings of the thunderbird. The young man shot it, and springing forward, killed it with his moose horn club. When the other bird came, he killed it too. He went on until he came to a porcupine as high as a hill, which lived in a cave. Through this cave the young man had to pass, for he could find no way around it. Hiding outside the cave, he made a noise to attract the porcupine's attention. It at once began to back out, lashing its tail against the mountainside until the enormous quills were stuck all over the mountain and the tail itself was quite bare. Then, as it left the cave, the young man shot it and clubbed it to death. Traveling on farther, he found the tracks of an enormous lynx. This, the woman had told him, was the strongest of the monsters. Here, too, he tried to go around it, but could not. Then he tried to shoot it, but the lynx caught the arrows in its claws. Seeing no way of escape, the young man gave up hope. Then the lynx ordered him to clear away the snow so that he could eat him more at ease, and to heap up the wood for the fire by which the young man was to be cooked. The young man did this, but the lynx told him to get still more firewood. The young man did this, going farther each time to get the wood. Soon he heard someone say, "Brother, stand quickly on my back, and I will carry you away." "Where are you?" he asked. "Here." Looking down, he saw an ermine at his feet. He said, "I am afraid I will kill you if I step on your back." "No, jump on me, I will carry you." Then he jumped hard, but the ermine did not even move. "Your back is too small, I cannot sit on it. Lay a stick across my back and put another across my neck for your feet." He laid the sticks across the ermine and sat down. Immediately it carried him to his house. The young man's parents were glad for his safe return. They gave the ermine a shell of necklace. Coyote and Grizzly, Nez Perce. Once there was a grizzly bear who was always angry. One day, when traveling through the woods, she came upon a band of Indians. She ate them all. In the evening, when she had reached home, she had a bad headache, and in the night she became very sick because she had eaten so many Indians. She was sick for a week and almost died. She sent for Coyote to come as a medicine man, but Coyote said to his friends, "I do not care if she dies. It would not hurt me or anybody else. Everybody would be glad of it." But as his wife told him to go in company with others, he finally went to see Old Grizzly. After a while, he came to Old Grizzly's house and made medicine. Then she got well. He told her she was sick from eating too many chokeberries, because he thought all the people would run away if he told the truth and said it was from eating too many Indians. But when the people were gone and he himself was ready to run, he told her she had eaten too many Indians. Old Grizzly jumped up and chased Coyote. He ran up the hills, he ran down the valleys, he ran through the woods. At last he changed himself into a buffalo eating grass by the trail. Now Grizzly Bear thought she would catch Coyote, no matter into what form he changed himself. So when she saw the buffalo, she started to kill it, but then she saw Coyote's trail running past it. So she followed the trail. When she had gone some ways, Coyote changed himself into his own form again. He called after Grizzly Bear and said, "You are only a foolish old bear. You can never catch me." When Grizzly Bear heard Coyote's voice, she started after him again. After a while, Coyote changed himself into an old man who had smallpox. He was in a teepee by the trail. His clothes were old and worn. When Grizzly Bear came up, she looked into the house. She asked the man if anyone had passed. He told her a man had crossed the river. She saw a bridge with tracks on it. The bridge was made of willows. Now she thought she could get across on that bridge, so she walked on it. The bridge broke. She fell into the water and was drowned. Then Coyote turned himself into his own form and went back to his people. He told them he had killed Grizzly Bear. Coyote and the Dragon. Long ago, in the Willamette Valley, there lived a monster who made all the people afraid. It lived in a cave. At night it would come from its cave, seize and eat people, and return to the cave in the morning. All night it would eat the people. Coyote heard of this monster and decided to help the people. Coyote was the cunningest and shrewdest of all the animals. Now the monster could not endure daylight. It lived always in the dark. So one day when the sun was very bright and high up in the heavens, Coyote took his bow and arrows and went to a mountain top. He shot one of the arrows into the sun. Then he shot another into the lower end of the first one, and then another into the lower end of the second. At last Coyote had a chain of arrows that reached from the sun to the earth. Then he pulled the sun down. He pulled hard until it came down. Then he hid it in the Willamette River. Now the monster thought night had come. Everything was dark because the sun was hid in the river. So the monster came out from his cave and attacked the people. Then Coyote broke the chain which held the sun down, and it sprang up in the sky again. The monster was blinded because the light was so bright. Then Coyote killed it. When the palefaces found the big bones of the monster and carried them away, Indians said evil would come of it. Origin of Spokane Falls. Flathead. Coyote and Fox were traveling together. They were coming up the river. When they got to where Spokane Falls now are, Coyote said to Fox, "I believe I'll get married. I'll take a woman of the Pend D'Oreilles for my wife." So Coyote went to visit the chief of the Pend D'Oreilles. He said he wanted a wife. Chief said no. Chief said that Pend D'Oreille women could not intermarry with other tribes. Coyote said, "Then I will make a falls here in the river. I will make falls so that the salmon cannot get past them." That is how Spokane Falls were made. Coyote in the buffalo country. Flathead. Coyote took to the trail again. After a while he had nothing to eat. He was nearly starved. He went into a teepee at noon and lay down to rest. He was very weak because he had had nothing to eat. This happened in the Jocko Valley. Coyote heard someone halloo, but he could not see anyone. Then someone called again. After he had looked carefully for some time, Coyote saw Eagle a long way off. Eagle said that far away there was a country where there were buffalo all the time. Eagle said, "I am going there, but you cannot. You are too poor." Then Coyote was angry. Coyote said, "I can go anywhere. I am going there." Coyote started out, and in 15 days he reached the place. It was near Great Falls. There was a big camp there, and the chief's name was Bear. The people did not like Bear. When buffalo were killed, Bear would take the best piece for himself, all the good meat and the chunks of fat. Coyote wanted to be chief himself, so he killed a big buffalo and stripped off all the fat. Then he cut the meat in strips and hung it up to dry. After that he built a big fire and heated some stones red hot. Bear heard that Coyote had killed a buffalo, so he came to look at the meat. Bear said, "This is nice meat, I will take it." Coyote said, "I saved some fat for you." Then Coyote took a red-hot stone, wrapped it in fat, and put it in Bear's mouth. Thus Coyote killed Bear. Then the people made Coyote chief. Now Bear was a great medicine man. Whatever he wished came true. There were many buffalo at Great Falls because Bear had wished it. After Coyote became chief, all the buffalo went away. Then people said, "Coyote is a bad chief." Coyote went out again to hunt for buffalo. He was all alone, and he hunted for 5 days. but the buffalo were all gone. Coyote was ashamed to go back to the camp, so he kept right on. In a little while Coyote met Wolf. Wolf said, "Where are you going?" Coyote said, "I am going to travel all over the world." Wolf went on ahead. Soon Coyote heard someone coming. It was a man with plenty of meat. Coyote lay down by the trail and pretended to be dead. The man stopped. He said, "This is pretty good fur." So he threw Coyote among the meat and went on. Coyote ate all the meat he could hold. Then he ran away. After a while he met Wolf again. Wolf said, "You look fat. Where did you get meat?" Coyote told him he had pretended to be dead. He said, "The man wanted me for my fur. Your fur is finer than mine. If you pretend to be dead, you can get meat." Wolf heard the man coming, so he lay down by the trail and pretended to be dead. The man stopped. He said, "This is pretty good fur, but I'll make sure he is dead." Then he hit Wolf with a club. He hit Wolf twice. Then Wolf jumped up and ran away. Wolf was very angry. He said, "Coyote did this on purpose. I will kill Coyote." Wolf ran and Coyote ran. After a while, Wolf overtook Coyote. Wolf said, "Why did you play that trick on me? Now I will kill you." Coyote said, "Wait until I tell you something. Then you can kill me." Wolf said, "What do you want to tell me?" Coyote said, "There are only two of us. It is not fair for us to fight alone. Let us get others to fight with us. Then it will be like one tribe fighting another." Wolf agreed. So Wolf went in one direction and Coyote in another. Wolf met Bear. Wolf said, "Come with me and fight Coyote." Then Bear and Wolf went on together. In a little while they met Mole. Wolf said, "Come with me and fight Coyote." So Wolf and Bear and Mole went on together. Now Coyote had gone in another direction. He met Cat and Dog. Coyote said, "Come with me and fight Wolf." So Coyote and Cat and Dog went on together. Now Wolf reached the meeting place first. He looked up and said, "I see Coyote coming." Coyote was coming with Cat and Dog. Coyote was dressed up with beaded moccasins and a beaded shirt. Therefore he was a great chief. When the fight began, Coyote with Cat and Dog killed all his enemies. Then Coyote went on alone. Coyote and the Salmon, Klamath River. Then Coyote went to Klamath River. He found the people very poor. They had no food. The river was full of salmon, but the people could not get any. 3 skookums had built a dam to prevent the salmon from coming up the river. So the skookums had all the fish, but the people had none. Coyote was very angry. Coyote said, "Before many suns, fish shall come up the river. The people shall have all the salmon they need." Then Coyote went to the mouth of the river. The skookums saw him. They thought he was only a skulking coyote. Coyote whined for some of their fish. Skookum would not give him any. Coyote came close to their camp. The skookums drove him away. But Coyote saw where the skookums kept the key of the dam. That was what he had wanted when he whined for fish. Next morning, one skookum started down to open the trap and let in a fish for herself. Coyote ran out of the teepee, jumped between Skookum's feet, and tripped her up. Skookum fell, and the key fell out of her hand. Then Coyote picked up the key and went to the dam. Coyote opened the dam and let the fish through. The salmon went upstream into the country of the Karoks. Then the people had food to eat. Afterwards, Coyote broke down the dam. Ever since then, salmon go every year up the river. Falls of the Willamette. Tatoosh came from the coast to the Willamette Valley. Tatoosh had been teaching the coast Indians. He found the Willamettes very poor and cold. Now the Willamette was full of salmon, but the tribes were very stupid and feeble. They could not catch the salmon, so Tatoosh made a tum-tum. Footnote: Tum means heart. Falls were named tum-tums because the sound of falling waters resembled to the Indian the beating of the heart. Endnote. There the fish would come to the surface. Tatoosh also made a trap. Tatoosh began to make a tum-tum at Hintook. He did not like the place and left it. The gravel bar shows where he began to work. Then Talipus went to Rock Island to make a tum-tum. Again he did not like the place and left it. The rapids show where he began to work. Then Talipus began to make still another tum-tum. Here he liked the place and finished his work. White men call it the Falls of the Willamette. Here the salmon come to the surface and trying to leap over the falls. Then the stupid tribes could spear the salmon. At this tum-tum, Talipus began to make a trap. Talipus made one that would say no seeps when it was full. So Talipus set the trap by the falls and began to make a fire. He began to rub the fire sticks together. Then trap called no seeps. It was full of fine fish. Talipus emptied it. He set the trap again by the falls and began to make a fire. He began again to rub the fire sticks together. And then again trap called no seeps, no seeps. Talipus emptied it. Then he set the trap again by the falls and began to make a fire. Before he could rub the fire sticks together, trap called no seeps, no seeps. Then Talipus was angry. He was very hungry, and Trap would not let him make a fire. Talipus said Trap should not call so soon. Talipus said, "Can you not wait, catching fish, until I build my fire?" Then Trap was angry. Trap would not catch fish anymore. Then the people had to spear the fish. Talipus and the Cedar, Clatsop. Once Talipus was traveling from the country of the Tillamook's to the country of the Clatsops. Talipus made himself a coyote. Talipus passed the mountains and headlands of the coast. Then he followed the trail through the deep woods. As he was traveling along, Talipus saw an immense cedar. The inside was hollow. He could see it through a big gap which opened and closed. The gap opened and closed as the tree swayed in the wind. Talipus cried, "Open, cedar tree!" Then the tree opened. Talipus jumped inside. He said, "Shut, cedar tree!" Then the tree closed. Talipus was shut inside the tree. After a while, Talipus said, "Open, cedar tree!" Then the tree opened. Talipus stepped out of it. The tree was a very strange one. So Talipus told the tree to open and jumped inside. Then he told it to close. Talipus did this many times. At last Talipus was inside the tree. Talipus said, "Open, cedar tree!" The tree did not answer. Talipus was angry. He called to the tree. He kicked the tree. The tree did not answer. Then Talipus remembered that he was Coyote, the wisest and cunningest of all animals. Then Talipus began to think. After he thought, Talipus called the birds to help him. He told them to peck a hole through Cedar Tree. The first was Wren. Wren pecked and pecked at the great cedar until her bill was blunted. But Wren could not even make a dent. Therefore Talipus called her Wren. Then Talipus called the other birds. Sparrow came, Robin came, Finch came, but they could not even break the heavy bark. So Talipus gave each a name and sent them away. Then Owl came, and Raven, and Hawk, and Eagle. They could not make even a little hole. So Talipus gave each a name and sent them away. Then he called Little Woodpecker. Finally, Little Woodpecker made a tiny hole. Then Big Yellowhammer came and pecked a large hole. But the hole was too small for Talipus, so he saw there was no help from the birds. Then Talipus remembered again that he was Coyote, the wisest and cunningest of all the animals. Then Talipus began to think. After he thought, Talipus began to take himself apart. He took himself apart and slipped each piece through Yellowhammer's hole. First he slipped a leg through, then a paw, then his tail, then his ears, and his eyes, until he was through the hole and outside the cedar tree. Then Talipus began to put himself together. He put his legs and paws together, and then his tail, his nose, his ears, and then his body. At last Talipus put himself together again, except his eyes. He could not find his eyes. Raven had seen them on the ground. Raven had stolen them. So Talipus, the Coyote, the wisest and cunningest of all the animals, was blind. But Talipus did not want the animals to know he was blind. Talipus smelled a wild rose. He found the bush and picked 2 rose leaves. He put the rose leaves in place of his eyes. Then Talipus traveled on, feeling his way along the trail. Soon he met a squaw. Squaw began to jeer. "Ho, ho, you seem to be very blind." "Oh, no," said Telephus. "I am measuring the ground. I can see better than you can. I can see Tomanous rays." Squaw was greatly astonished. Telephus pretended to see wonderful things at a great distance. Squaw said, "I wish I could see Tomanous rays." Telephus said, "Change eyes with me, then you can see Tomanous rays." So Telephus and Squaw traded eyes. Telephus took Squaw's eyes and gave her the rose leaves. Then Telephus could see as well as ever. Squaw could see nothing. Telephus said, "For your folly you must always be a snail. You must creep. You must feel your way on the ground." Ever since that time, snails have been blind. They have to creep slowly over the ground. How Coyote was killed. Coyote had done many things. Fire he had stolen from Skookums, and salmon he had given to the Indians. Therefore Coyote, thinking very highly of himself, wanted to travel to the sky world. Now Star came every night very close to Coyote. Coyote lived above the clouds on a mountain top. Therefore Coyote said to Star, "Take me with you." Star only laughed. Thus Coyote was angry. Coyote said every night when the Star came, "Take me with you into the sky." But Star only laughed. Then Coyote howled at Star. At last Star said, "Tomorrow night I will take you to the sky world." Next night Star came again to the mountain. Star came quite close to Coyote. Then Coyote leaped far and caught on the edge of Star. So they traveled through the sky world. Star climbed higher and higher. Coyote looked down. The tall firs of the forest were only as large as arrows. Then Coyote became cold, traveling high in the sky world. Star was not warm like sun. Coyote became so cold he could not hold on. His paws slipped and he fell. Coyote fell far to the earth below him. For 10 snows he fell. When Coyote struck the earth, he was crushed as flat as a willow mat. Thus Coyote was killed. End of Part 4. Part 5 of Myths and Legends of the Pacific Northwest by Catherine Berry Judson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Part 5. Old Grizzly and Old Antelope, Klamath Lake Indians. Old Grizzly lived with Old Antelope. Grizzly had 2 children. Antelope also had 2 children. One morning early they went to dig ipo roots, leaving their children at home. Old Antelope filled her basket before Old Grizzly had dug any ipo root. Old Grizzly kept on eating them up. Then they returned homeward. Again, next day they went out to dig ipo, and again Old Antelope sooner filled her basket. Old Grizzly dug little. After their return, they each gave ipo to their children. Then Old Grizzly thus enjoined her cubs, "Ye shall not skip down from the lodge. The livers to ye would get loose. Ye shall not jump over the logs. Ye would run against some sticks. Ye shall not dive under the water. Smothering, ye might die." Now again, Old Grizzly next morning went again with Old Antelope to dig roots. Old Antelope soon filled the basket, Old Grizzly having dug little. Then Old Grizzly went to Old Antelope. She begged, "Insects bite me." Old Antelope said, "A while from now I will bite you when we have returned homeward." Again Old Grizzly declared, "Insects bite me very hard in my fur." After a while, Old Antelope bit into the fur of Old Grizzly to kill the insects. Then Old Grizzly wanted also to bite into the fur of Old Antelope. Old Grizzly put ipo roots into her mouth. Crunching them, she pretended to bite insects, cracking them. Then she bit Old Antelope through the neck. She killed her in this manner, then cut her up wholly. All the ipo roots of Old Antelope she put in her basket, placing the meat on top. This she stuck on the top of a pole. A small portion of the meat she took home and gave to her children. Also to Old Antelope's children she gave meat. The younger said, "But it tastes like our mother." The elder pushed her, "Be silent, say not so." They saved the meat to eat until the next day. Meanwhile, Old Grizzly explained, "Your mother gave the Indians much meat, where she passed the night, but to me they gave only a little. Tomorrow I shall go to look for your absent mother." Early next morning Old Grizzly started out to fetch the meat. Then the young antelope said to the grizzly cubs, "Let us skip down from the house." Bear cubs said, "Our mother wants us not to skip down. Our livers might get loose." Young antelopes again said, "Look here, we will jump over logs." One cub said, "Our mother wants us not to jump over logs. We might run against tree limbs." Again a young antelope said, "Look here, let us dive." The cub said, "Our mother wants us not to plunge in the water. Smothering, we might die." The young antelopes asked only once more, "Look here, let us play smoke out." The cub said, "Our mother told us not about this. Here we will play this." The young antelopes threw rotten wood into the lodge and went into it first. The bear cubs put the cover on. The young antelopes said, "Pretty soon you must open again." "Yes," said the cubs. Soon the young antelopes cried, "Two smoke in, two smoke out. Two smoke in, two smoke out. Smother, smother. Oh, oh." Then the cubs opened the cover. The young antelopes went out. Then the cubs went in, saying, "Pretty soon ye must uncover." "Yes," said the young antelopes. The cubs cried, "Smoke in, smoke out. Smoke in, smother, smother." Again the young antelopes went into the lodge. "Two smoke in, two smoke out. Smoke, smoke." The cubs uncovered, and the antelopes came out. The cubs again ran into the lodge. "Two smoke in, two smoke out. Smother, smother." This time the young antelopes would not uncover for the cubs. After their death, the young antelopes uncovered the lodge. Then taking out the cubs, red paint they lined in their faces. Gagging the nose of the elder, they lifted it up to the top of the lodge. Gagging the mouth of the younger, they fastened it on the lodge ladder. Then they went into the fireplace. Every article they enjoined not to report to Old Grizzly when she returned. The bone awl alone they forgot, as it stuck in the roof. After a while Old Grizzly returned, being ahead of herself. Angered at their having wasted red paint, she said, "They have wasted my red paint, which I stole from the Indians." Then approaching nearer, she saw the cubs to be dead. Sobbing, she said, "Now the children of Old Antelope have punished me." To the young antelope she called, "Where are ye, children?" The children replied to Old Grizzly, "Right here are we, sitting in the sunshine." Old Grizzly ran out to where now the children were sitting, but again the children spoke toward the mud house in reply to Old Grizzly. Again Old Grizzly ran into it. "Children!" Again the young antelopes replied to Old Grizzly, "Here we play, out of doors. You do not find us." Grizzly thought it was the voices of the children, but the articles enjoined by the children had done as they had been told and had answered her. But after some time the bone awl Shakta, which had stuck in the ceiling and had been forgotten, said, "Long ago the children whom you look for went away." Old Grizzly said, "Which way, then, traveled they?" And the awl Shakta told Grizzly, "Through here they crawled, and here they placed coals against the opening." Then Old Grizzly attempted to crawl through the hole to follow the children. She could not crawl through. Finally she broke through and went on her way crying, rotten wood breaks easily. Rotten wood breaks through." Walking, Old Grizzly wept thus. Then she said, "Where are ye? I am going to find the children." She said this repeatedly while walking. Finally she overtook the young antelopes while they camped in a cave, but she did not see them. Building a large fire, she lay down. Now the children became aware that Old Grizzly had overtaken them, and the elder antelope woke up the younger one. "Now she has caught up with us," she said to the younger, and woke up the little one. Old Grizzly went to sleep lying near the fire. "Tomorrow, at last, I will play a game with ye children in daytime, seeing more sharply then." So speaking and lying down, she went to sleep. Then the young antelopes threw sticks at the sleeping one. They threw them to try whether she was asleep. But she not moving, they ran out of the cave at a quick pace. Afraid that Old Grizzly might overtake them, they hallooed to Old Crane, Shukamtash, who, fishing minnows, skirted the water. "Cross us over, uncle, very fast. She is chasing us and will overtake us now." Old Crane crossed them over. The young antelopes explained to Old Crane. Then Old Crane blew them into a whistle stick and hung them up in the lodge, but they rattled for fear. At the message of the young antelopes that Old Antelope was killed by Old Grizzly, Old Crane and the young ones, too, wept. Old Crane wept, crying, "Lake water, lake water." The young cranes also wept, crying, "Lake wah-wah water." Now Old Grizzly, awakening after a time, looked around the cave. "I shall play a rather hard game with the children in the daytime, when able to see better." Long ago, after they left the cave, they reached Old Crane's home. So Old Grizzly started to follow the young antelopes. The tracks of them she followed. Reaching the river, she asked Old Crane, "Have you seen the children?" Old Crane said, "Not I saw the children." Yet here were the outgoing tracks of the children, having reached there. So Old Grizzly hallooed, "You want to conceal them, then. Set me over quickly." Old Crane said, "I have no canoe." Again said Old Grizzly, "Quickly cross me over. Fast set me over." After a while, Old Crane spread out his legs, one leg carrying a drinking cup, and let Old Grizzly use it as a bridge. Old Grizzly stepped on his leg. Coming to the midst of the river, she drank water from the drinking cup. And to shake out the water, after drinking, she struck Old Crane's leg with the drinking cup. Old Crane, angered, doused Old Grizzly into the water. Then, fetching a bow from home, Old Crane shot Old Grizzly. Then the young antelopes came out of the whistle. With bows and arrows borrowed from the Crane children, they shot Old Grizzly, and thus they killed her. Legend of the Klickitat Basket. Klickitat. Shade told the first weaver to weave Tooksy, the basket. Weaver said, "I do not know how." But she went to the forest. She thought for a long time how to weave Tooksy. Then she gathered the plant Yi with squaw grass, elk grass, pine grass, and woo-ash and red cedar roots. Then Weaver began to work. She worked very hard for many days. Then Tooksy the basket was finished. Weaver carried it to the lake. She dipped it full of water, but the water leaked out. Shade said, "It will not do. Weave again. Weave a tight basket with a pattern in it." Weaver was very sorrowful. Weaver sat by the lake mourning. At last, in the clear water, Weaver saw the pattern, Chatotimus. Then Weaver was happy again. She went again into the deep forest and pulled up Nuweash, the red cedar roots. Then Weaver began to work. She worked very hard for many days. Then Tooksy, the basket, was finished. Weaver carried it to the lake. She dipped it full of water. This time the water did not leak out. The basket was tight, and it had a pattern on it, as Shade had told her. Other weavers learned the pattern. Thus the Klickitats have plenty of baskets. They do not leak, and they have a pattern in them. The Northern Lights. Wabanski. Old Chief Masarto, Morning Star, had one son only, so different from other boys of the tribe as to be worry to Old Chief. He would not stay and play with the others, but would take his bow and arrows and leave home for days at a time, always going toward the north. When he came home, they say, "Where you been? What you see?" But he say nothing. At last Old Chief say his wife, "That boy must be watched. I will follow him." So next time Chief Masarto kept in his trail and traveled for a long time. Suddenly his eyes closed, and he could not hear. He had a curious feeling, then know nothing. By and by his eyes open in a queer light country, no sun, no moon, no stars, but country all lighted by strange light. He saw many things, but all different from his people. They gather round and try to talk, but he not understand their language. Msarto did not know where to go or what to do. He well treated by this strange tribe. He watched their games and was attracted to wonderful game of ball he never saw before. It seemed to turn the light to many colors, and players had all lights on their heads, and all wore very curious belts called menquan, or rainbow belts. In few days an old man came and speak to Sarto in his own language and ask him if he know where he was. Old chief say no. Then old man say, "You are in country of Wababan, Northern Lights. I came here many years ago. I was the only one here from the lower country, as we call it, but now there is a boy comes to visit us every few days." Then Sarto asked how old man got there, what way he come. Old man say, "I follow path called Spirit's Path, Kedaguswat, Milky Way." "This must be path I come," said old chief. "Did you have queer feeling as if you lost all knowledge when you traveled?" "Yes," say old man, "I could not hear or see." Then say Sarto, "We did come by same path. Can you tell me how I get home again?" "Yes, chief of Wababan will send you home safe." "Well, can you tell me where I can see my boy? The boy that comes here to visit you is mine." Then old man tell Sarto, "You will see him playing ball if you watch." Chief Sarto very glad to hear this, and when man went round to teepees, telling all to have ball game, Sarto went too. When game began, he saw many beautiful colors. Old man asked him, "Do you see your boy there?" Old chief said he did. "The one with the brightest light is my son." Then they went to chief of Northern Lights, and old man said, "Chief of Lower Country wants to go home and also wants his boy." So chief of Northern Lights calls his people together to bid goodbye to Sarto and his son. Then ordered 2 kichi, sipi, great birds, to carry them home. When they went traveling Milky Way, he felt the same strange way he did when going, and when he came to his sense, he found himself near home. His wife very glad he come, for when boy told her his father was safe, she pay no notice, as she afraid Sarto was lost. End of Part 5. End of Myths and Legends of the Pacific Northwest by Catherine Barry Judson.